Hello, today I'll be discussing my final project for my research class, INFM 675. So this whole research project was basically about improving communication in healthcare using technology. So communication is a major factor to healthcare field. It is the process of sharing information between individuals, departments, or organizations. It can be considered the lifeline between patients and team members. A system with a broken down communication will cause patients to be at risk. There are many ways to revamp the communication in an impaired system. There can be options of huddle, cross monitoring, or technology. But today I will discuss using technology. So, some of the issues that I experience in my field is the lack of communication. In this particular research, we are going to be discussing an OBGYN clinic at Emory University. They seem to have an ongoing issue with communication. It affects patient care, workflow, and the morale of the department. So my hypothesis is the use of wearables and electronic huddles will improve communication in healthcare. The research methodologies that I used was observational and evaluation. For observational, I did do a non-participant observation. So I basically observed the clinic for about a week span to view the normal workflow of the environment. So from 1 week, Monday to Friday, I reviewed each time during my lunch hour and after my business hour. I would still stay around to review, how the clinic workflow is going, where's the breakdown in communication. That's the kind of things that I was looking for, and how is it affecting the patient. So if something gets miscommunicated, is it directly affecting the patient or is it directly affecting the workflow? So that's what I was observing throughout the clinic. The evaluation portion, I did a case study. So what I basically did was I got a controlled group where I provided wearables. So it was about 5 people. Most of the participants had their own wearables. So what we did was actually we communicated 2 days. We communicated with our wearables anything that needed to be communicated within the department during that patient care. So, for an example, there are some of the things that we did once we got the wearables was we notified doctors, like prime example, an admin assistant notified a doctor when a signature was needed for an order, or when an approval for FMLA needed to be done. That was transferred via the wearables. Also, the front desk staff was able to communicate on the wearables to the medical assistants that a new patient was added 5 minutes before, we were supposed to leave for the day, to let everybody know that the clinic will be running over. As far as electronic huddles, we use that for like more so clinical messages. So whenever there was a change in the clinic that affected the clinic entirely, it was put on electronic huddle. So what we did was use a projector TV. It was really a TV, but we kind of used it as a projector, and we pulled up messages that we added there constantly to show the change in the clinic. So one day we were able to put on there that one of our doctors canceled clinic. That notified the front desk to go ahead and start calling patients back to reschedule, and to let the admin know that anything that we may need that's pressing from the doctor that day, we may need to get before they leave, or just postpone it for tomorrow. It let the medical assistants spread their workload between each other. So that's how we use the wearables and electronic huddles in the case study. And we wanted to evaluate the effectiveness of the wearables and electronic huddle within the workflow. Literature reviews that two of them, I actually reviewed 6, but 2 of them is what I discussed in my paper. The first one was an efficient, secure communication for wearable systems using wearable devices. So this was kind of how we were using it, but more so clinically. So they were doing this for heart patients, and anytime the wearable noticed a change in heart rate or a change in the patient's vitals, it notified the doctor, which the doctor and the nurse, which made the doctor make a decision whether or not he needs to, come and see the patient or just give nurses for the next treatment. So that was actually a really, really interesting literature review. They definitely confirmed that wearables is a major key and a major help to healthcare nowadays. We also have the second literature review, which is the novel use of communication technology to improve nurse-physician communication teamwork and a care coordination during bedside round pass. Sorry, that is the title. So in that literature review, they were more so concerned with the lack of communication. They kind of supported me in that aspect on how the lack of communication definitely leads to patient errors. So that's another reason why I chose this literature review. They confirmed that, certain things trigger the lack of communication, which in return affects the patient. So the way, the collection method that I chose was natural observation, interviews, and focus groups. So natural observation was me walking around, viewing the clinic, taking my time, kind of notating where I think things went wrong in communication, how it's affecting the patient. There is some things where I've seen that lack of communication basically affected the patient by extending their wait times. And another lack of communication was a patient was here, but the front desk forgot to check him in, and instead of going back there and letting the medical assistants know, or using the wearable to notify that the medical assistants that a patient basically was forgotten, so that the medical assistants would be able to get that patient next. The front desk kind of just didn't even mention anything, and she kind of fell in line, so she was waiting there for about 2 hours, which is completely unacceptable. Next would be the interviews. The interviews that I did more so confirmed that yes, there was a lack of communication, but I also think the interviews more so voiced the frustration with the workflow, and also how low the morale is. In the clinic, they pretty much voiced that I believe the medical assistants voiced that they're usually the last to know things, meaning the admin will know, the managers will know, doctors will know, but medical assistants are the last to know that, a doctor got called into the OR, which is, not great communication. So that was one voice. Another thing that was voiced is that, when call outs happen, let's say a medical assistant is calling out, managers don't take the lead on letting everyone know that this medical assistant will not be here today. They don't find out until they're actually at work, and not even once they get there, maybe a few hours later, they'll realize that this person isn't coming into work, which is kind of frustrating on their part, which is what they voiced to me, because which is frustrating on their part because they are not, it's just bringing down the morale, because now they're frustrated, they have a heavier workload. It's just it could all have been avoided had, it properly been communicated. They could probably prepare for it better as well. And lastly, I did focus groups. So after we did the natural observations, after the wearables and electronic and so we did the natural observations, then we did the interviews, then I provided the wearables, and we also did the electronic huddles. After that, we then focused on the focus group, brought everybody together, and they kind of gave me their inputs on the wearables and how they felt about it. They did voice that it did help communication tremendously, but there was some who felt that the wearables were just kind of tedious. Like they didn't feel like messing, so to say, is what they said, messing with the watches. So that was some good feedback. There was also some more feedback on how they would like the wearables to be able to like voice memo, like they want the voice memo and typing option on the Apple Watch or the wearable, sorry. So that is pretty much what they said. Management definitely said that it would be way too costly and they wonder if it would be worth the price. So that is my slideshow. Thank you guys for listening. Have a great day.